In a sunlit corner of southernmost Africa, there's a very special rescue centre for some of the country's noisiest residents.
They're the coolest creatures alive.
The vets and volunteers at the Sandkolb Seabird Rescue Centre in Cape Town work night and day to save this indigenous species from dying out.
The African penguin is endangered, and unless we all take action to conserve them, they will become extinct.
Their aim is to release injured birds back into the wild.
Just to see them go back is unbelievable.
And to provide a loving home for those who can't return.
I love that bird.
She's the pretty one.
We are the penguin slaves here.
Life here is an avian soap opera where nothing is black and white.
Oh.
Princess is jealous.
A place of life and death struggles.
He looks like he's gonna go.
Petty squabbles.
He's the complete jerk at the moment.
And lots of waddles. It's time to meet the penguins. In this episode, amputee Cedric's blissful marriage to wife Robin faces its biggest challenge.
I hope he's not going to split up from Robin. It would be really unfortunate because they have such a strong bond.
Squeaker, the juvenile, tests everyone's patience.
This is the one that just makes noise all day.
And a wild penguin comes in with a life-threatening wound.
Be as quick as possible because he looks like he's gonna go.
There they go.
For the penguin fairy godparents at Sandkolb, release back into the wild is the absolute priority.
Hopefully come back one day to breed.
So even if their injuries are as severe as an amputation, many penguins are still released.
It's quite common for us to amputate a leg and then release the birds back into the wild. These birds cope remarkably well and they end up breeding.
Some penguin amputees wouldn't survive in the wild, but serious limb loss needn't be a death sentence. Instead, they get to live out their lives in relative luxury in Homepen, the rescue centre's area for permanent residents. But for one of Homepen's most charming amputees, his disability is the least of his problems.
Cedric came in 2008. His right leg was injured. It couldn't be fixed, so he had to have an amputation. And unfortunately, it was cut so short that we couldn't release him. If a bird is going to stay in Homepen and not be released into the wild, it has to be able to get around and be able to feed.
Cedric may be ungainly on land, but once in the water, he has good sea legs. There's just one problem: how to get out. This clever penguin has developed his own special technique.
Cedric knows it's a challenge for him to go. He will sort of speed up and, lift himself out of the pool.
And there's another factor important to Cedric's quality of life. He's married.
Robin was found back in 2010, so she's been here for quite a long time. She was very skinny, and we found out that she's actually blind in her right eye. It was like a couple of weeks later, her and Cedric got together. And I remember at the time being so happy because Cedric was always a loner.
Robin has started her annual molt, and it's not pretty.
African penguins have what we call a catastrophic molt. Because they're a waterproof seabird, they need to lose all their feathers at once and grow through a whole new load of feathers again. And that process normally takes around 3 weeks.
But Robin's feather loss has stopped halfway through, a common but unlovely phenomenon called arrested molting.
They start molting and then their body for some reason tells them to stop. So they could be that they don't have enough energy, it could be stress, it could be weather. A lot of the times we don't actually know what the problem is, but just that they stop.
But despite her vulture-like appearance, Cedric adores Robin and is a dutiful husband. To show his wife of over 5 years how much he loves her, he collects nesting material to make their nest cosy, even though it's clearly difficult for him.
Cedric's favourite place is right in the nest with Robin. She's made Cedric very happy.
But Cedric's life is about to be turned upside down. And so is his marriage. Cape Town's coastal colonies of wild penguins are regularly patrolled by penguin monitors like Pingwin.
There's one that's shivering and shaking.
Today he's found a young bird in trouble.
That one's cold there. See him shivering, this juvenile. And he possibly won't make it. He may be on mortality.
Underneath all the chick fluff, Pingwin's expert eye can see the youngster is malnourished and close to collapse. He's brought straight to Sandcob and given some fish. And the nickname, Squeaker. It seems that after his shaky start, this chick wants to make sure he never goes short again and has a very vocal way to get the attention of the humans.
He's noisier than all the other penguins that we have in the centre just because he came here as quite a young chick. So he thinks it's a natural reaction that he's doing.
Chicks have an instinctive urge to squeak. In the wild, it would direct their parents towards them as they return from the sea with their catch.
If you go to the colonies, you'll see really skinny parents from feeding the chicks so much, and the chicks are huge, but they're still begging for food.
Most chicks dial down their food request vocalizations after a few weeks, but not Squeaker.
He's technically not a anymore, but he doesn't know.
Squeaker seems to be forming a mental association. Humans equal food. It's a worrying development. Birds that become over-reliant on humans can't be released. It's too dangerous for them. Like Princess or Winston, they end up living in home pen, unable to contribute to the wild population. Squeaker's got around 3 weeks here as he goes through his first molt, growing a whole new set of feathers. Can he shake his growing addiction to humans in time? Several penguins come into the centre every day. Many of them might just need some TLC to set them on the road to recovery. But today, Vet Natasha is faced with a life or death situation.
What's our weight though?
1.82.
A juvenile penguin at the Boulders Beach colony has been found emaciated, dehydrated, and with a terrible gash across its abdomen. The penguin monitors have rushed it straight to the centre.
It may have gone into the propeller of a boat.
He's gone into shock and is fading fast.
Be as quick as possible because he looks like he's going to go.
They've got to work quickly to get him hydrated, then clean and treat the wound.
Put some antibacterial cream inside the wound so that overnight that can do its job.
He's stabilised, for now, but it's too late in the day for the operation he needs on his huge wound.
He's weak, but he's still standing, he's still...
In Home Pen, Sandcob's area for birds that can't be released, amputee and devoted husband Cedric is noticing something different about his life. And And that's because the other male penguins of Home Pen have noticed something different about his wife. Robin's been given a zinc supplement that's helped her finally finish her molt, and she seems to have emerged something of a penguin goddess. He'll start hanging around Cedric's house, hoping to get Robin's attention. And all the unwelcome interest is making Cedric hopping mad. But his wife seems to be enjoying all the attention. Once home-loving, Robin now begins making trips to the pool to show off her new plumage. Poor Cedric can only wait at home, hoping his wife comes back. Can Cedric win back his suddenly sexy wife? As Cedric stews over take, the staff working in the chick pen also don't know what to do with themselves. Squeaker, determined never to go hungry again, is still hyper-vocal.
This is the one that just makes noise all day. When you're feeding, it stands right by you and it's right in your ear.
To ensure he's independent enough to be released, the staff know he mustn't get the idea that his squeaking actually works.
We don't give him more food because he wants more food, so he's on a fish limit. We just don't encourage it.
They've kept his contact with humans to a minimum, but his molt is nearly over. It's almost release time, and Squeaker shows no sign of stopping his dependent behaviour. Will Squeaker make it back to the wild? Over in the medical centre, another bird is making noise, but in this case, it's a very welcome sound. The emergency case that came in yesterday, nicknamed Floyd, has survived the night and is looking strong enough to operate on.
So it's looking really ready to give it a good clean and pull the skin in. We're gonna go ahead with this and try and pull the skin as close together as we can. It's quite tricky to actually close their skin all the way, and we don't really want to do this because all the dead tissue will collect under this closed skin and then you're left with a horrible lump. So we're just going to clean it, leave it open, but pull the skin closer together. To take them into surgery. The wound, as it looks at the moment, doesn't look too bad, so we're just gonna have a look under that scab that's there at the moment and see what we have.
Penguins with such extensive injuries are usually easy to anaesthetise.
Got a feeling he's gonna go down relatively quickly, just because he's in such a poor condition.
But Floyd shows he's got fighting spirit.
Though I might have been wrong with my comment of he'll go to sleep really quickly.
4 minutes later, Floyd's out for the count, and Natasha can get a good look at what she's dealing with.
It looks like a pretty big wound. These things tend to heal quite quickly, and the birds tend to do quite well. These wounds can be quite satisfying. So it's just a case of pulling off the scab. You can see this is a really beautiful clean wound and it's not tunnelling anywhere, which is great.
As she's able to get a close look at the bird's injuries for the first time, she discovers something.
I'm really concerned about this area up here. What you can see up there is actually the very tip of the humerus. So it's a little bit of bone that's exposed, which really, really isn't what we want. Just remove those feathers from my suture.
With this amount of exposed bone, it's easier to get an infection. The penguin is in a lot more danger than Natasha originally thought.
Cut that one. And that's
Floyd begins to revive in Rhiannon's arms.
He's just slowly waking up.
He shows he's got the heart of a fighter.
Unfortunately, the thing which isn't so good is that the wound extends to the tip of the shoulder, and I feel like I can touch bone, which is not a very good sign at all. You don't want bone to be exposed and then get infected. So if that bone gets infected, it leads to a whole heap of more problems.
But with Floyd looking so perky after his operation, the team's cautiously optimistic.
Looking alright at the moment. I think it'll be safe to close the crate.
Kehidupan manusia tak luput dari berbagai kebutuhan.
Behind bulletproof glass, special equipment fires ammunition.
Mengungkap proses di balik pembuatan barang sekitar kita.
As it turns into the shape of a coil.
Melihat lebih dekat perpaduan antara teknologi dan ilmu pengetahuan.
They emerge from the oven piping hot, where a machine called a picking drum removes them from
How It's Made. Setiap Kamis, pukul 20 waktu Indonesia Barat. TVRI, media pemersatu bangsa.
Indahnya alam di negeriku sungguh menakjubkan. Rimbunnya hutan, syurga bagi kehidupan. Hijaunya selalu menawarkan kesegaran. Tapi itu adalah cerita lalu. Kini hutanku dirusak dan dibakar, membuat mentari tak bebas bersinar. Birunya langit pun berubah menjadi pudar. Hak-hak kami pun dirampas. Kami tak bebas bernafas. Kami tak bisa bermain lepas. Kami tak bisa bersekolah dengan bebas.
Over in Home Pen, troubled amputee Cedric has a decision to make. After days of watching Robin flirt with other males, he's had enough.
Cedric is leaving his nest and sticking his head into other couples' nests. I'm hoping he's not looking for other prospecting mates.
For a bird with such limited mobility, this is an epic trek.
I hope he's not going to split up from Robin.
Meanwhile, wife Robin has returned from her latest flirting session to discover an empty nest. With no idea where Cedric is, she can only wait and hope he returns. But Cedric is still weighing up his options. But finally, after a little rest, he seems to make a decision. Slowly, he heads back home, where Robin is waiting.
Robin will take him back. They've had a strong bond for years.
In home pen, as in the wild, couples do sometimes split and form new relationships with others. But for these two lovebirds, it seems all is forgiven. But over in the medical centre, all is far from well. Vet Natasha has just returned from a visit to Floyd, the penguin with the gash wound.
I was called into ICU because there was a bird really struggling to breathe and looked in distress. It was really hot in the room, so initially I thought it was just a case of heat stress. So I pulled him down, but it became really apparent that he was really struggling. I put him on oxygen, but his breathing became even harsher. I was about to attempt to place a breathing tube into one of his air sacs, and he went.
Brave little Floyd, who fought so hard to survive, has lost his final battle.
We tried to do everything we could, but we couldn't save the bird.
But as Floyd makes his exit, much to everyone's relief, a very vocal bird is making his entrance onto the wild penguin scene.
He can go in.
Squeaker.
One of the birds that we're releasing today is the one who's been crying and making all of that racket in Pen Street, and all of the volunteers are complaining about him, so I think they'll be glad that he's going today.
Nikki is worried Squeaker is still overly reliant on humans.
He was hand-reared here at Sandcob, and I'm hoping he doesn't just stand on the beach and start crying and hope that someone will bring him some fish.
But with numbers so low in the wild, it's got to be attempted.
When the birds come in, we want them to get well again and go back to the wild and become adults and breed and contribute to the wild population. So it's definitely a feeling of joy, but also we feel apprehensive. We just hope that they'll be okay.
Squeaker is the only juvenile being released today. He's totally inexperienced.
Are you ready? Yeah. You can throw that one over. Encourage the little guy to get up. There you go.
He's the first to be let out of his box, with good reason.
He would be a bit apprehensive about getting in the water, but with adults around him, it's that sense of security. You know, numbers mean their survival. Go on, Squeaky. Let's follow the adults. These guys, he just follows suit, and that's why we try and get the adults to actually go around him and encourage him to get to the water for the first time.
They all take to the water. But then Squeaker does something the rehab staff have been dreading. He comes back. If Squeaker can't let go of his reliance on humans, if he refuses to fish for himself, he won't survive in the wild. It's a tense moment for the staff. But finally, Squeaker takes his courage in both flippers and heads for the big blue.
We stop in the decline. By being able to see them go out, back into the wild, back into the ocean, it really does bring a little bit of a heavier heartbeat for myself. Just to see them go back is unbelievable.
Sejak kecil, diajarkan untuk disiplin. Kini, sesibuk apapun bukan alasan untuk tidak patuh bayar iuran JKN KIS. Membayar dengan cara auto debit adalah solusinya. Hidup lebih berarti membantu sesama untuk optimis melangkah ke depan. Ayo, daftar dan bayar iuran JKN KIS dengan cara auto debit. Dengan gotong royong, semua tertolong.
Mengetahui lebih dalam tentang asal-usul tempat yang penuh histori. Menambah wawasan dan pengetahuan dengan mengenal peninggalan sejarah dan budaya dari berbagai negara di seluruh penjuru dunia. Jendela Dunia, Senin sampai Rabu, pukul 14.30 waktu Indonesia Barat, Kamis dan Jumat, pukul 9.30 waktu Indonesia Barat, Sabtu dan Minggu, pukul 11.30 waktu Indonesia Barat. TVRI, Media Pemersatu Bangsa.
Duduk termenung di bumi sepi, dalam hati berkata sendiri, Tuhan, bencana apa lagi yang akan diciptakan oleh umat-Mu? Serakah apa lagi yang akan menelan hutan titipan-Mu dan merubah elok menjadi kabut asap? Membunuh nyanyi satwa, merampas akar pohon yang menjadi haknya untuk tumbuh. Duduk termenung menatap kaki langit, tanah hitam dan bukit. Sungai dan air pancuran merintih pedih bata-bata. Satu-satu nafas angin tersendat, satu-satu bisik rimba lenyap. Tuhan, andaikan aku mampu, akan kurangkul mesra hutanku. Sebab aku masih ingin bercanda dengannya, berdoa dan belajar bersama-sama. Kepadanya akan kusampaikan, jangan khianati Ibu Pertiwi.
TVRI, Media Pemersatu Bangsa. Super Big Match. Dua rival abadi Inggris kembali tersaji. Laga bertabur bintang sepak bola dunia. Mampukah The Red Devils menghentikan langkah kemenangan The Reds? Saksikan Premier League. Manchester United melawan Liverpool. Minggu 20 Oktober 2019, pukul 22 waktu Indonesia Barat, di TVRI Nasional dan Sport HD. TVRI, official broadcaster of Premier League.
In a sunlit corner of southernmost Africa, there's a very special rescue centre for some of the country's noisiest residents.
They're the coolest creatures alive.
The vets and volunteers at the Sandkolb Seabird Rescue Centre in Cape Town work night and day to save this indigenous species from dying out.
The African penguin is endangered, and unless we all take action to conserve them, they will become extinct.
Their aim is to release injured birds back into the wild.
Just to see them go back is unbelievable.
And to provide a loving home for those who can't return.
I love that bird.
She said we're T1.
We are the penguin slaves here.
Life here is an avian soap opera where nothing is black and white.
Oh. Princess is jealous.
A place of life and death struggles.
He looks like he's gonna go.
Petty squabbles.
He's the complete jerk at the moment.
And lots of waddles. It's time to meet the penguins. In this episode, a wild penguin receives treatment for a life or death wound.
We're not even sure if this is salvageable. If it's not, then this guy doesn't have a very good chance.
Two home pen inhabitants get into a knockdown, drag-out fight.
I don't want to go in there and rip them apart because they could just turn on me. Come.
And one of the long-term residents Stubby has a very special occasion.
This is my first penguin birthday party. It'll be great.
At the Sandcob Seabird Rescue Centre, everyone's aim is to return penguins to the wild. But sometimes that's just not possible. For these penguins, Home Pen provides a sociable environment, emulating the way they would live in the wild. This species is gregarious and likes to be in close proximity. Here, the penguins can relax and play together, mingle, and fall in love. There's sweet young penguin love, like beak over heels couple Hansel and Lorelei. The teenagers try out potential partners, while the older, more settled couples set up home.
Flip and Jaeger are the really, really tight couple that we have. Anything they do, they always do it together. They are quite tight. And then we've got Milo and Flo, and they are almost like the grandparents of Home Pen. They're both quite old. They've been here quite a while.
Another established couple is 8-year-old Edgar and his wife, Juniper. Despite having only one eye, Edgar's managed to snare a much younger trophy wife, and he works hard to keep her happy. In the wild, couples are more likely to stay together if they breed successfully. Until they reach breeding age, relationships are more fluid.
When the penguins are young, just like people, it takes a few tries before you actually meet the one that you want to spend your time with. Most of the penguins in here don't get it right first time round. Heifer is here because he has quite a skew beak. It just kept on growing in opposite directions and we couldn't release him at all.
Heifer's crossed beak hasn't put off girlfriend Gretel, but not content with loyal Gretel, Heifer is on the lookout for his next conquest. And Edgar's young wife, Juniper, is on his radar. But it seems Heifer's picked the wrong lady to flirt with. One-eyed hardcase Edgar is absolutely furious. And it's war. Bird rehabber Rhiannon is at a loss.
I don't know what to do. They're fighting over Juniper, Edgar's girlfriend.
Heifer makes a break for the water. He thinks he's safe. But it's not over yet. As tempers run high in Home Pen, over in the medical centre, another rather pungent penguin drama is playing out.
Oh, it's stinky. This is all necrotic tissue that we're pulling out. If this preen gland can't be salvaged, then it's not a very good prognosis for release.
This wild penguin, nicknamed Natty, came in a few weeks ago with a foot injury.
Let's take it off and see how he walks without it.
But it soon became apparent that he had another, much more serious injury to his preen gland at the base of his tail.
The preen gland is so important for these guys. They have to preen to keep themselves waterproof, and that preen gland secretes an oil which just helps the process, helps them smooth out their feathers. Without a working preen gland, we would really struggle to release the bird.
Without waterproof feathers, Natty wouldn't be able to swim or fish. He'd die a slow death from starvation. So Bron's operation is now an emergency. The wound on his preen gland has become infected and is full of dead tissue.
It smells like there's worse things going on in here.
The damage is extensive. If it's to heal, it's essential that every bit of rotten tissue is removed.
I just don't really know what to do for this guy. He's been here for a while. It's just not healing like we were hoping.
But penguins are robust creatures, and there is a glimmer of hope.
So basically in a gland, every little bit of the tissue that's there is producing the substance that we want. So if some of it's damaged, there'll still be some kind of secretions available from the rest of the healthy glandular tissue. Okay, and we're going to stitch that up now.
Bron packs the wound with antibiotic cream to guard against further infection and hopes it will be enough. If Natty's preen gland doesn't heal, he can't be released, and euthanasia will be the most likely scenario. For the next few days, Natty's life hangs in the balance.
Probably give it about at least another week and a half to allow all that kind of tissue and things to form, and then we'll just have to see.
Back in the home pen pool, young buck Heifer thinks he's escaped from outraged husband Edgar, who caught him flirting with his wife. But as he emerges, he discovers he couldn't be more wrong. Edgar hasn't finished making his point. It's been almost 10 minutes of flat-out fighting. It may seem savage, but it's actually a normal way for this social species to sort things out.
Any fighting, it's natural behavior. Just because it doesn't always look good doesn't mean that it doesn't actually have to happen.
Edgar's show of strength has reaped rewards. Wife Juniper is firmly back in hubby's tender penguin embrace.
She was tempted slightly, I think, and maybe it was nice getting the attention of a younger boy, but I think she... At
the Sandcob Seabird Rescue Centre in Cape Town, South Africa, Home Pen is a cosy haven for penguins that can't be released. This morning, as usual, the resident penguins are enjoying a fun-packed day. And one little penguin is about to savour Home Pen life even more than usual. She has a very special day coming up.
Tomorrow is our little Stubby's second birthday. And to mark the occasion, we're having a little get-together in Home Pen. We'll all gather around and we'll just do a little hooray for Stubby for being so amazing.
Stubby's been at the centre almost all of her short life.
So Stubby, when she came in as a chick, she had some wounds on her, and we're thinking that that led to an infection.
Although Stubby recovered from her wounds, it soon became clear she had bigger problems.
Stubby has these short flippers, and that's why Stubby has not been released back into the wild.
Stubby's flippers just weren't growing as they should.
I'm just going to measure her flippers now because she's coming up to her second birthday, and we've got some other juveniles here as well. Okay, so her flipper is 13 centimeters, and who are you? This is Skipper, and her flipper length is 17 centimeters.
With her flippers almost 5 centimeters shorter than they should be, the team were faced with a life-changing choice to make on Stubby's behalf.
When it got to release time, we had to make a decision. So what's absolutely crucial to remember is that when we release birds, they obviously have to be physically fit enough to survive in the wild. She would not be able to propel herself through the water to escape from predators such as Cape fur seals, and she probably wouldn't be able to be fast enough to catch pilchards. They use these flippers to propel themselves through the water, and they use their tail and their feet for more direction. It's the speed that's the problem. Because there's no current, there's no wave action, it's very calm water, you know, So I'm seeing very little difference between the two birds. And this is why I think we took so long to pick it up in the beginning. When you compare measurements, that's when it really becomes obvious. And also when you understand what a penguin has to go through in the wild, how rough the sea is. So I really feel like it was the right decision to keep Stubby in captivity, and it was an ethical decision as well.
Although Stubby can never be released, she's learned to make the most of her life in home pen and is a popular resident.
You had a nice swim.
She likes to run up to you and jump into your lap, and also a bit jealous when you give other birds attention.
Stubby.
She loves human company now, but at almost 2, she's about to enter penguin adulthood, and things will soon be different.
When Stubby becomes an adult, the behavior normally changes and the personality changes as well. When they're adults, they want to breed, they want to find a mate, and they become very, reclusive. So that's when you'll see them hiding away in the nest box. You'll see them hanging around with other penguins more and not sort of wanting the human contact.
Stubby's estrogen levels will rise, and she'll be less interested in hanging with the humans and more interested in finding a mate. And she might already have someone in mind. Stubby and fellow youngster Norbert are very close friends, spending most of their time together. So before things get too serious and Stubby grows up too much, the staff have decided to throw her a birthday party. And it's got to be perfect. Bird rehabber Mana is charged with making a very special cake for all the party penguins. She's made a fish shape out of ice to fill with what penguins love best, pilchards. But so far, it's not going well.
It is leaking.
Is it leaking?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. None of the birds have any idea of the amount of effort we go through for them every day.
This fishy cake is supposed to be the piece de résistance. If it's a flop, it could ruin the party.
Get some more bags.
Yeah.
Mana reforms it and starts again.
Fingers crossed. If it leaks, you're cleaning it up.
Boleh minjem HP.
Kalian ya semua.
Party preparations are now in full swing. But although the birthday girl is lurking, she's distracted. And the reason is, Stubby's best friend Norbert is nowhere to be found. It just won't be a party without him. Over in the medical centre, little Natty, the wild penguin, is still in intensive care. He spent 10 days recovering after an operation to try to save his preen gland. Oil from this gland keeps his feathers waterproof, so he can survive in the ocean. If it doesn't work anymore, Natty will have to be put down.
We haven't looked at his wounds in the last 10 days. So we're hoping to see that the skin has started to actually heal from the inside, from like deep in the wound.
As Bron removes the stitches from the last operation, Natty's future hangs in the balance. If there's new healthy tissue under the stitches, he has a chance of survival.
It's actually looking quite nice. Okay, this is looking a lot better than the last time we saw it. The actual healing is starting, but it is definitely improving, which is very good news.
It's a relief for everyone. With his preen gland on the mend, little Natty now has a fighting chance.
That procedure went very well. I'm quite happy with how it's healing. We were quite concerned, but I'm happy that it's progressing in the right direction, so that's good. He's on some anti-inflammatories for pain and things, as well as some antibiotics, just to make sure that he doesn't get an infection.
But he's already been here almost a month. During all this time, the pool has been a no-go area.
He hasn't been swimming. We were quite concerned about pocketing of water around the wound. That water would just sit there and be a bad source of infections.
Muscles waste away the longer they're out of use. The more time he spends out of the water, the less likely he'll be strong enough to release. A couple of weeks later, Natty's preen gland is now able to produce oil. But now he's started his annual molt. Once a year, penguins replace their old feathers with new. It's a process that takes around 3 weeks, and during that time, their feathers aren't waterproof enough to swim.
It's hugely energy expensive. Generally in the wild, we'll feed up for a good few months, and then they get really, really nice and podgy, and then they stand on the beach for a while and then just molt. And then once they finish molting, they're able to swim and catch feed and things like that again.
Once his new feathers have come through, Natty's newly healed preen gland will swing into action. But that's another 3 weeks without swimming, on top of the month he's spent recovering from his initial injury. It's a very long time for any penguin to be out of the water. Over in Home Pen, Stubby and her human servants are getting ready to celebrate her second birthday.
It's looking good.
But Stubby's special friend Norbert is still missing. The party can't start without him. The decorations are almost done.
It's like another universe in here.
And just in the nick of time, naughty Norbert turns up. Finally, it's party time.
So there's food behind you, you can help yourself, okay.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, wow, Mana.
Mana's repair to the special fish cake has worked. And the birthday girl loves it.
Excited. Everybody wants to go.
I think she's having the best day of her life. Look at her, she's a little party girl. You're on play as well. Happy birthday.
The party's been a success, and soon everyone's exhausted. And it's time for the birthday girl, tired but happy, to snuggle up with best friend and penguin party partner, Norbert. While one penguin celebrates, it's an anxious time for another. Little Natty, the penguin with the preen gland injury, has been at the centre for almost 2 months. First recovering from his wounds, then going through his annual molt. During all this time, he's been unable to swim, and vital muscles will have been weakened through lack of use.
It's not too certain at this point in time what's going to happen.
If Natty struggles to swim, he can't be released. Thankfully, Natty's penguin instincts are still good.
One of the most rewarding parts of the job is treating a case that looks absolutely hopeless and getting that bird to the point of release.
Thanks to the skill and perseverance of the staff and his own fighting spirit, Natty is now well on the road to release.
That bird did not look like it had much of a hope of ever getting to the point of swimming, let alone release. And now he's swimming and those wounds are healing really nicely.